Hi, my name is Briana Giarelli.
And I'm Hanna Horsington. We're here with Hope Solo, a retired professional soccer player and two-time Olympic gold medalist, and Paul Daugherty, a sports journalist for the Cincinnati Enquirer since 1994.
Our first two questions are for Hope. Many young females consider you their role model as they push themselves in the soccer field. Who would you say are some of your soccer heroes as you grew up?
Oh, well, this is actually a very tough question because soccer wasn't always on television when I was a young girl, so it was very difficult to look up to female athletes. I looked up to my older brothers who played baseball, basketball, and football. I looked up to my father, who was my first coach. I had a lot of great female support in my life, but I really couldn't look up to somebody who was on television. I looked up to people like Allen Iverson because he was a great NBA player, and Bo Jackson, who played in the NFL and played Major League Baseball. But I didn't have the ability to look up to very many female athletes, and that's what I love about where we are today, because now we have young girls who can dream to become any professional athlete they want to become because they actually see it on TV now. We still have a long ways to go. There should be more women athletics on television, but we finally can have role models for these younger generations that I never had.
So growing up, what were some attributes that you looked in for like a role model, or what attributes did they have as you started to develop those relationships with those people?
Well, like I said, I had a lot of great support from women in my life, including my mom and my grandma. They weren't the athletic role models, but they were strong women who believed that I could do anything, and they supported me in doing that. They believed in standing up for injustices. They believed in going against the grain for the betterment of humanity. And so they really empowered me to be the best person that I could be. But like I said, you know, I also, in terms of athletics, I looked up to my brothers and my dad and the men that I saw on television. And those attributes were just that competitive drive, that passion for sport, those leadership qualities where they would do what it took to win. That's what I loved seeing when I watched sports on television.
Wow, that's great.
So in the past, doing something like a girl was typically seen as a derogatory term. So what does the phrase "fight like a girl" mean to you?
Oh, again, very difficult questions. I commend both of you. And it's difficult because I don't like to differentiate the sexes. It's not fight like a man, fight like a girl. Let's fight as human beings to the best of our ability. I believe in merit-based society. I believe in, you know, having a strong skill set, man or women. I believe that we should be hiring in occupations and jobs. I believe that it should be a merit-based hire, you know, who's not just black, white, not just man, women, but who is best for that particular job. So fight like a girl, I don't know, fight like a boy, fight like a girl, be the best you can be. Fight with everything that you have to be the best that you can be. So for me, I don't want to differentiate. I understand the slogan, and it does empower young girls, but ultimately I just want us all to be the best that we can possibly be. And that's why it was a very tough question for me.
That's amazing, thank you.
Paul, so in your book, An Uncomplicated Life, you share with readers that it was your family's goal to prevent your daughter Jillian, who has Down syndrome, to grow up needy or dependent on others. How has your family instilled Jillian to fight like a girl throughout the challenges she might face growing up with Down syndrome, and doesn't have to be specifically like a girl, but have that driving fight in her to overcome those challenges?
Well, Jillian takes after her mother anyway. She's a tomboy, so that part was not hard. We simply allowed Jillian to define herself the way we allow all our typical children to define themselves. We didn't. We never started out life. We did not start out life with the supposition that Jillian has Down syndrome, therefore she won't be able to do X, Y, or Z. She was given the opportunity to do everything that everyone else was. There was maybe the best example of that was she came home one day when she was in 10th grade in high school and decided she wanted to be on the junior varsity dance team. And we'd never said no to anything before. And we didn't this time, and we cleared it with the people at the school and got to the coach and said, yeah, Jillian would like to try out for the dance team. And the coach said, sure, we need somebody to cue the music. And I said, no, that's not what we had in mind. And Jillian stood in front of a mirror in our basement for hours on end for like 30 days in a row. My wife was a teacher at the high school, so she was able to come up with a videotape, this is back in the day, of the routine from the previous year. It happened to be the same routine that she was using. So she would stand in front of the full-length mirror and listen to the videotape and watch the girls dance and try to learn it. And all I will say about that is if I have to listen to the Run DMC version of Walk This Way like one more time in my life, I'm going to become a Barry Manilow fan. But the point is Jillian learned how to do it, and she was able to do it well enough that she was deserving of being on the team. So I guess my long answer, short question, we allowed Jillian to define herself just the way we allowed our son to define himself.
Wow, that's great, and thank you for sharing that story with us. I know that it's really important to not be defined by either your disabilities or if you're female being set back in a male-dominated sports arena, so thank you.
So then going on with that a little bit, Hope, what adversities did you face growing up as a woman in sports? And did you ever feel as a young girl kind of growing up in the soccer world that it affected your self-confidence?
Being a young girl was great. I was oblivious to the realities of the real world. I didn't realize how male-dominated the world was until really I got into college. I remember my it was actually the first college party I went to, and it was hosted by the football team, and all of the soccer players went, and we were leaving early because we had a game the very next day, and this big macho football player came up and was like, where are you going? Why are you leaving so early? And I was like, oh, we have a game tomorrow. And they were like, nobody cares about girls sports. Certainly nobody cares about girls soccer. And I remember at that point I was like, this is so disrespectful. I could not believe that we were not being treated as student athletes, just like they're treated as student athletes. And it was eye-opening to me to be so disrespected because I was a hard-working college athlete. I studied, I put in the work, I did 6 a.m. workouts just like they did. And I was not treated with the same respect. So for me, being a young girl in the soccer world was just wonderful because I could just be that tomboy. I could run around and score goals and celebrate and dream so big because I had a dream at 12 years old. I wrote a paper saying, when I grow up, I want to be a professional soccer player. And this was in '93. And in 1993, there was no women's professional soccer. So I really dreamt outside of the scope of what was attainable. And I stayed true to that commitment. I put my blinders on, I stayed focused, and eventually I became a professional soccer player. But being a young girl, I was just oblivious to all of the realities of the world, and it took me a long time to understand them as I grew up. And that became the very difficult time for me, is when I was really in my 18 through my 20s, where I was like, how is the world so inequitable? Why are there so many inequalities? And it was hard for me at that point in time to understand how the world worked. So part of me wishes that I understood the realities as a young girl, but part of me really appreciates the fact that I just enjoyed my livelihood as an innocent young girl from the country.
And that young girl still followed those dreams, definitely.
So Hope, you emphasize the importance of fighting for what you believe in. So I just want to make sure I get this quote right. So you said, I realized that the hardest route to go is to fight and continue to fight and to continue to lose out. Honestly, these things are real, but I do know that you have to fight to change the world. So what do you say to young women who are afraid to fight for what they believe in?
Oh, I don't recall those exact words,
Okay.
so I wonder where you found that quote. You did some good research. It's not easy to fight. It's not easy to stand up for what you believe in. Oftentimes, the easier route is to do your job, stick to your P's and Q's, kind of stay under the radar, and get your paycheck, and go home. And it can be very difficult. There's a lot of self-sacrifices. I went through a lot of trials and tribulation, through my innate desire to speak out. It's almost like I had to speak out. It was pressed upon me from an early age, from my grandmother and my mother, to stand up against bullies, to, you know, speak out when something doesn't seem right, to speak against injustices and inequalities. And so I learned that from a very young age. And so as I grew up, it was hard for me to just look the other way. It was hard for me to just shut my mouth and be gracious and, you know, just play soccer. I always felt like it was my obligation to stand up for the things that I personally believed in. So it didn't make for an easy road. It didn't make for an easy life. But right now, I won't even give you my age anymore. I'm a grown adult now, and I can look in the mirror and be proud of everything that I've stood for, and not just be proud, but I have a sense of confidence in myself. I have a sense of knowing that I did everything I could to change the world for a better place. So I have this sense of calm as well. And it wasn't easy going through it. And what I would tell people who are going through, you know, wondering if they should stand against something, knowing it can make their life more difficult, what I can say is, years later, you will be really proud of yourself that you were able to have that strength and that confidence to stand up against something that you believe in.
And even like hearing that as a college student, hearing that although it might be the road less traveled, in the end you will be most proud because you stuck to your core values. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
So Paul, just like Hope, you have a passion for sports and for sharing your thoughts with others. So how do you try to portray this passion in all of your columns and articles?
You're asking someone who's done this for 31 years and what's, you know, 200 columns a year, 31. I'm not a math major. You know, my passion is writing. People say, well, you know, you better support the local teams because if they leave, you don't have a job. I say, you know what? I could write anything. I just happen to write sports. I write sports because I do like the passion of the people who play them. I admire that and the discipline, the greatness that they have to be able to do it at such a high level. I still go to games with sort of this childlike notion that I might see something that I've never seen before, right? It doesn't happen very often, especially in Cincinnati, but it happens enough to keep me going back. But I've always been more concerned about the words than the, gee, I get to go to another game and eat free food, you know? The writing has always been what's mattered to me, not necessarily the sports, but I understand the passion because I try to bring the same passion to what I do that athletes do to what they do. It doesn't always work that way, but you know, you try, and the older you get, the harder it gets. And I'm battling that now because, you know, to go watch the Reds play on another Sunday afternoon, you know, I could be out playing golf or whatever, you know, okay, it's my job. And the minute that it becomes a job and nothing else is when you're in trouble. And I think that's another thing that athletes and I have in common. And I have no idea if I answered your question. Did I answer?
Yes, I think you definitely
The questions are tough, aren't they?
They're good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're very good questions.
Okay, so before we conclude, Hope, I have a series of lightning round questions that I'd like to ask you.
These always make me nervous. I get butterflies.
No, they're fun, I swear. So the first one is, what's the best feeling that you've ever had?
Oh my goodness. That's supposed to be, I guess I'm just going to say I'll stick to sports, winning the 2015 World Cup.
Incredible. Next one, if you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
I think I would, my husband and I just had this debate, would you rather fly? And I said, I want to swim like a whale and just be able to swim in the water and go down below and see everything the aquatics have. So for me, I guess I'd be like Aquaman.
Incredible. I've never heard that one before. Okay, and finally, what is the most inspirational book that you've ever read?
Well, it's very philosophical, so I'm not sure it's directly inspirational, but I find a lot of inspiration in it, and it's Ayn Rand. I almost said The Fountainhead, I'm sorry. Ayn Rand's most popular book, Atlas Shrugged. Thank you.
And then actually you have one more. So if you could tell your college self one thing right now, what would it be and why?
I always listened to my college coach, but it was hard. She was very much tough love, and she was hard on us. And I wish I had more of that in my life. I wish I had that tough love every day in my life, because she made me a better, stronger, more responsible person. So for me, I wish I embraced it then, and I wish I still had it in my life now.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Are there any questions for the audience?
It's not fair. You don't get a lightning round?
No, I guess not.
So this question is for both of you. How did this day at Miami kind of come about? Did they reach out to you first?
Yeah. I'm I don't know how you put it. I'm with the APB Speakers Bureau. When the book about my daughter came out, I hooked up with them, and they essentially booked us gigs all over the country. So they called me and asked me if I wanted to do this one. I said, sure. Pretty simple.
Similar. I mean, I like to go to universities and speak to these very engaged students, and so I've been doing a lot of discussions at different universities quite a bit, and I guess they just reached out to my agent. And of course I wanted to come to Miami University.
All right, the last time I did one was with Pete Rose, and this is a far more intellectual discussion than Pete and I had.
Last chance for any final questions?
I have a couple.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here with the Miami Student Newspaper. So, Hope, can you comment on the U.S. women's team's most recent court filing against the U.S. Soccer Federation today?
The more to the party, the merrier. So we all have to come together and fight the good fight, and I'm happy they finally decided to join the cause.
And do you feel that female athletes are allowed to fail in the same ways as male athletes?
I think I would need you to be more specific.
In terms, or not necessarily fail, but in terms of on and off the field, if that makes sense.
I think there's a lot of double standards. Absolutely, I've seen it in my time as an athlete. You know, unfortunately, that's oftentimes the world that we live in. It's not just sports. But yeah, I think sometimes we're allowed to fail, sometimes we're not. It all depends on maybe the circumstance, maybe the timing of things, maybe that particular media outlet who wanted to cover things. So I think there's a lot of variables involved, but I have seen a lot of double standards, yes.
Could you give examples, perhaps?
I don't really want to get into too many personal details. Let's see if I can keep it much broader. Well, yeah, I do know that many times when, for instance, me and my former teammates would do interviews, we're expected to be very PC. We're not expected to have emotion. We're not expected to get competitive or be poor sports. And we're supposed to be the girls next door, the ponytail posse, the innocent ones, but we are professional athletes who get upset, who get angry, who get mad, who hate losing, who want to win. No different than our male counterparts. And so for so long, we were supposed to be in this little box where we were just these innocent little girls playing soccer. And it wasn't until recently where Nike started doing campaigns and they started doing commercials where poor sports in the women's game was actually celebrated. You know, they had this commercial, I think Serena Williams was like throwing the tennis racket, and it was actually cool to be a poor sport. I'm not gonna say it was cool, but it was celebrated. And for so long, it wasn't celebrated. So we are kind of moving across that threshold, but I have seen many double standards throughout the history of my career, anyway.
Do you know who chose the name for your lecture?
I was going to ask that. That's funny.
Okay.
Tell me if you find out.
I will. Okay.
What is it called, though? Is it called?
It's called it's Fight Like a Girl, and then there's like a subhead after that.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
It's and the subhead is a quest for equality. I
Equality,
believe.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's right. It's
Ah,
right behind us, yeah.
There we go. Great memorization.
Yeah, I have one more question. So, Paul, in 2015, you did write sort of a scathing column related to Hope Solo. Have you guys talked about that since
I
then?
asked my agents to do the research, and they didn't get back to me because anybody that I have as a moderator, we like to know kind of where they're coming from and their opinions. And so I was really curious about that, and I asked you earlier today in the classroom, and I got kind of a...
Did I write?
You
I'm
weren't
sorry.
sure. You weren't sure.
I listened to
So-
too much Van Halen.
All right,
I had trouble hearing you. Go
So
ahead.
it was kind of related to domestic violence charges that have since been dismissed.
Right.
And it was more a critique on the U.S. Soccer Federation in terms of how they handled punishment, I suppose,
Right.
or lack thereof.
I'm going to stop this right now because we're not going to be talking about these issues. They
Sure,
have been
of course.
dismissed, but that won't even be brought up in whatever article that you're going to write, and we will make sure of that if you don't mind.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Do you have another question?
Yeah. For right now, yeah, good.
Okay, so thank you so much for both being here and taking the time to speak with us today.
And we really hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your time at Miami. For MTN, I'm Briana Giarelli.
And I'm Hanna Horsington.
Thank you guys.
Thank
so
you guys.
much.
You guys are
Really
great.
Appreciate it.
Yes, very
Thanks.
good.
So good meeting you.
Of course,
Sorry,
you too.